Hey level uppers, it's Larry, and this is a lore overview of one of the more interesting dungeons in Kunark, the military stronghold of Chardok. This story begins with the reign of Atrib Sathir, the third emperor of the Sathir dynasty back in the Ixar year of 432. Atrib was well known for the extensive amount of time he spent mastering the dark arts, and he would shape the racial dynamics of the entire continent of Kunark. After countless failed attempts, Atrib would eventually succeed in magically melding Dragon and Ixar to create a completely new race of intelligent dragon men, the Sarnak. Atrib would immediately understand the quantitative value of being able to endlessly create his own army of thralls, and in secrecy, he did just that. Being able to organize and train these soldiers required a facility in itself, and that's what led to the construction of Chardok. Chardok would remain under Ixar control for nearly 900 years, until the fall of the Sebalisian Empire, and by this point, the Sarnak were as structured, disciplined, organized, and arguably even more intelligent than their creators. The Sarnak would take over the military fortress and create their own hierarchical system in what would be called the Dizok Empire. The Dizok Empire would establish a strong presence across the continent of Kunark and would take over several outposts and fortresses throughout it. A flourishing economy led by the Dizok bloodline would lead their people to prosperity for hundreds of years, but would also make them a bit more xenophobic over time. With the accidental summoning of Vinral Sathir's spectral form by a cult of Sarnaks unassociated with the Dizok, Vinral was relentlessly focused on rebuilding the Empire of Ik to its former glory of 2,000 years past. He also learned the most effective way of doing this was to do it quietly, through subterfuge, as opposed to brute force. He was particularly cautious about drawing attention from the Ring of Scales since, of course, they would be swift to put an end to his efforts. And while possibly not immediately aware of his great-grandson's involvement with the creation of the race of Sarnak that led to the Dizok Empire, he was keen on the critical role that they would play in his greater plan. Perhaps unknowingly using a page out of the Ring of Scales' Corrupt From Within playbook, Vinral would employ a shapeshifter by the name of Korokust to infiltrate the ranks of the Dizok royalty in Chardok. This new strategy of placing agents and moles across the continent was actually quite effective for Vinral, as it allowed him to pull strings of local politics to be favorable to his broader plan. The agent, Korokust, was not only able to become in good standing with the Overking Bathazid Dizok, but would eventually become amongst the king's closest circle of trusted advisors. To get to that level, he had put in place an elaborate plan to, ironically, expose the Ring of Scale agent named Kajik, also a shapeshifter, and ultimately assassinate him, which he was successful in doing so. What Korokust was also successful with doing was building a case around why he should have more oversight into the council's affairs to help, as he put it, flush out the filth. Korokust's unyielding loyalty raised some flags with certain members of the Dizok family, particularly Prince Selrak, who wrote a letter to his father expressing deep concern around the conspiracies that Korokust was spreading to elevate his power and control not only over the delicate aspects of the Dizok Empire, but also with the family itself. With Korokust now in a position of great influence within the Dizok Empire, all that remains is for him to inform his master, Vinral Sathir, that all the pieces are in place. And that's the lore behind the zone Chardok that we all know and love. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check me out on Twitch and Discord, and we'll see you soon. Level up hype!